George, I wanted to let you know, Jody texted me a little bit ago and said she might be 5 to 10 minutes late. She was heading back from Los Alamos,
Okay.
but she was racing back.
Okay. Good. Good. I ran into one of your fellow presidents the other night at a political meeting, Joseph from Western.
Oh, Josh, yeah.
We spoke briefly. It was a political meeting for Nathan Small,
Okay.
who is running down in Las Cruces.
I guess they must be in the same district. Joe's in Silver City.
Right. Yeah. Ooh, well, it looks like it is 1 o'clock, and there are a whole bunch of people present, and welcome everybody on this lovely fall day. I know you all wish we were outside, but not yet, maybe soon. And let's see, do we have a quorum? Zuby is here. Who else from the board?
Linda should be here. I'll text her again. We need one more person.
Hi, Zuby.
How you doing today, George?
Good, thanks. Good. And you? Looks like you're sitting in the greenhouse.
I am in the lobby center.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, now I see it.
It looks good.
I like the fish in my backdrop, but you can hardly see them today.
Right.
I have to make my table higher so you can see the fish.
Okay. We are waiting for another board member, people, to have a quorum. So bear with us. If you have today's newspaper, you can do a cryptogram or something while you're waiting.
Yeah, Linda said she'd be here at 1, so hoping she'll jump on.
Okay. Let me try calling Pierre. I haven't heard anything from her. Well, caller 01 just checked in. Who would that be?
Caller 02.
Just here.
Okay. Very good. We now have a quorum. Again, welcome everyone. Could I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is adopted. Thank you very much. Okay, now, Dr. Raleigh. No, public comments, sorry.
There are no public comments.
Okay. I don't know if the public knows they can comment or they're just, just being silent. Okay, Dr. Rowley, your report and presentations.
Thank you, Chair Gamble. I'd like to start off with the Employee of the Month recognition. For the August Pass It Forward Award, we have Pedro Cordero from the School of Trades, Advanced Technologies and Sustainability. He was nominated by Michaela Deaton from Culinary. Pedro does a fantastic job running the greenhouse and keeping everyone well supplied with delicious produce and assisting our students. So congratulations to Pedro for all of your hard work. The WOW-gram for August goes to Doreen Jaramillo in payroll, who was nominated by Nayuki Nagashima from HR. And again, Doreen has been doing just a tremendous job working with the chess project. The payroll piece of that has been complicated, really, really long hours. And Doreen has really done a great job and represented Santa Fe Community College really well and made sure that we are getting paid. So very well deserved in that regard too. So on to the rest of my report, and I'm going to kind of hit the highlights on the written report that you all have, and then I have a few items at the end. In the under the chess item right there, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later, but I did want to mention that our CEO, Kathy Ulibarri, presented at the National Workday Conference about our project in New Mexico. So we've been getting a lot of good publicity and a lot of attention, which is good because if nothing else, it shows that Workday is very much interested in making sure that we have a successful launch and a successful program. And we're not just another random client to them. So I am pretty happy about that. And again, the timeline is there at the end of that section. The Wave 1 colleges, C&M, Clovis, Northern, and Santa Fe go live with payroll and finance and human resources on January 2023. So the people working in these areas, again, I've told you this before, and whatever I said before, it's twice that much now. So they are working really, really long, hard hours. But what I've heard today is that about 90% of their testing so far has been accurate, and it will get to 100%. But Workday is very impressed with the way that we've been able to stay on schedule. And I know that's been a little bit touch and go at different times, but really, I'm really proud of how Santa Fe Community College and all the other colleges have been able to hang tight in this when everything has been very tough at times. Under student engagement, the Santa Fe Community College made the 2022 Military Times list for best veteran colleges. So this is an important recognition for us and indicative of the services that we do provide to our veteran students. We partnered with the Institute of American Indian Arts for a joint open house on September 21st. This was a really nice event. You know, we both had open houses scheduled at the same time. And so our staffs worked together to coordinate the events so that and I noticed it seemed to me that there was quite a bit of traffic on our campus from IAIA, and students were coming over to look. They were very interested in particularly our greenhouse and a lot of our sustainability projects. And then our students were able to go over to IAIA and tour their facilities and really kind of work with our peers in a way that we don't do often enough. But it was a really nice event and something that I hope that we can continue doing. The Office of Planning and Institutional Effectiveness reports several new grants, $2 million for endowed nursing faculty stipends at Santa Fe Community College from the New Mexico Higher Education Department. So I'm sure that Board Member Siegel will be especially glad about that. And then another $1.35 million for FY23 nursing expansion from the NMHED Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery. So again, we are well poised to enhance and expand our nursing programs to try to help meet some of the pent-up demand in our community and also statewide. And again, we appreciate all of the legislative funds that have come our way because of a lot of, especially Board Member Siegel's work on this. Also supported by the USDA's NIFA HSI Education Grants Program, Western New Mexico University is organizing a standards-based interdisciplinary food and agriculture curriculum targeting Hispanic serving institutions that will culminate in a workshop in Santa Fe on October 21st through 23rd. And so we'll be participating, hosting a workshop for attendees. This is a really a nice event where we'll be able to work with some of our four-year peers. And as you can see there, that not only Western and SFCC, San Juan, University of Northern Colorado, MSU Extension Office, University of Puget Sound, and also Penn State will be participating in this too. The Emergency Medical Services Institute provided a students training exercise by simulating a mass casualty incident in the Health and Sciences wing. These are always kind of scary training programs because people always are not aware of what's going on and afraid that we're having a catastrophe, but really great training for our students. So I want to, thanks to Hedge and all of his folks for what they did. And more than 50 people participated in this. So it's kind of more of a community effort too. The Continuing Ed Office is partnering with the town of Edgewood Mayor and the Greater East Mountain Chamber of Commerce to hold continuing education classes in Edgewood with instructors from the Edgewood area. And this is something that we haven't really done. I think it might have been a little bit alarming to our partners at CNM, but I reminded them that Edgewood is in Santa Fe County, even though it is right outside of Albuquerque. So kudos to Chris and her team for meeting the needs of our students in Edgewood there. The Student Activities Group is sponsoring Cafe con los Comrades every Wednesday of the month at 8:30 a.m. This is a gender inclusive community of friends who gather at the mesa or table to empower the lives of one another through advocacy, navigation, support, and resources. And our own AVP, Dr. Tomasina Ortiz Gallegos, is the host for this and the one who has brought this group together. So very appreciative of that. Under faculty and staff, the Dean of Arts, Design and Media Arts and Liberal Arts, Jim Wysong, has announced serving on the Santa Fe Community Foundation Grants Committee and the Santa Fe Film and Digital Media Committee, and also on the Next Generation Media Academy leadership team, so that Santa Fe Community College is in the mix for these important conversations and poised to participate at a high level in these very important film projects that are coming down the pike. Director of Student Engagement and Recruiting, Marcos Maez, was selected as one of 40 under 40 top business leaders by the Santa Fe Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. He's going to be recognized at a dinner locally on September the 30th. Dr. S.J. Miller's article, Students with Complex Gender and Identities and Authentic Cariño, was the featured article in the current issue of Teachers College Record. And our own James Marshall has an exhibit at the Gerald Peters Gallery, Geometry of Light. This will continue until November 26th. And Library Director Val Nye was a panelist on the topic Practical Strategies for Defending Books in Your Library during the American Library Association's Banned Books Week. This is obviously, I know, a very important topic and something of concern to all of our faculty and staff. And so I appreciate Val's advocacy on this issue. Under the local bond projects, we're waiting for the lighting package for installation to replace old lighting. You can see the data there for what the energy savings and cost savings that will occur when we're able to replace our old energy inefficient lighting with new energy efficient lighting. For an annual savings about $387 per year, but even more important is the actual energy savings. You can see there, the work continues on the energy automation and microgrid training. We're still working with P&M to try to get some of the infrastructure contracting in place. Still roof renovations continuing. And then what I especially want to mention is the statewide general obligation bond, which is coming up on the ballot in November. So I will start a little bit more aggressive campaign with some of my statewide peers on trying to raise awareness for the local bond for higher education and to encourage people to vote on the bond, on the project. Santa Fe Community College has $2 million on that GO bond, which we will be using for HVAC improvements should we receive the bond. And just to remind everybody, there is no tax increase associated with this general obligation bond. There are projects that are, I think almost every county that has a community or a college, a community college or a university has a project on this list. So we really do try to market this as a statewide campaign. Santa Fe County traditionally supports the bond at a pretty high level, but we don't take anything for granted. So we would appreciate any kind of support that everyone can give and help us get the word out. For many colleges, this is pretty much the only way they have of getting any kind of funds for capital improvements. And even though we have some other mechanisms, this is still critically important to Santa Fe Community College as we move forward. Under community engagement, the President's Diversity Advisory Committee in the library sponsored a two-part presentation that was online and live about Alpana making by Sudeshna Sengupta. It was a really cool demonstration outside in this art form. The Early Childhood Center of Excellence is sponsoring the monthly speaker series, Social Justice and Equity in the Early Childhood Teacher Preparation, now through May of 2023. The School of Liberal Arts Creative Writing Program will host the annual Santa Fe Literary Review Reading and Writing Reception via Zoom on October the 20th. And as a reminder, the review is free and you can pick it up on campus and at various locations around town. Again, a very high quality publication, high quality this year like it is every year. So, and thanks to Kate McCahill for all of her work on that. And the library is partnering with the Santa Fe Public Library to sponsor book discussion groups focusing on the book They're There by Tommy Orange in September and October. The Santa Fe Public Library is one of 62 organizations nationwide selected to receive a 22-23 NEA Big Read grant that supports community reading for this program. So this is a really cool initiative, and I'm really happy that the college is able to participate with the public library in not just advancing literacy, but really having a community discussion about this really important novel. Under administration, you can see there's lots of evidence of publicity that we've received and people out and about doing great things throughout the community. But we are currently, we've issued a request for quotes for a food service vendor to provide cafeteria offerings, and we're hoping that a local small business will bid on this. It would be a great opportunity, especially for somebody who already has a little bit of capacity in the food services arena. So as you'll recall, during the pandemic, we shut down our on-campus food services. At the time of that closure, we were not able to run our food services. We had not been able to run our food services in the red for quite some time. And so according to our state laws, we are not supposed to run auxiliary services like bookstores and food services in the red. They have to at least break even to where the college doesn't have to financially support them. So we have not been able to do that, and we had not been able to do that with the bookstore either, which is why we did an RFP and contracted with Barnes and Noble. We had a committee with faculty and others who chose Barnes and Noble, and we will do something similar with food services, only we are hoping for a local vendor with food services who can come in, use our space, and provide food to people on our campus, both faculty, staff, and students. And so that is still running for a couple of weeks. And so I'm mentioning this in more depth and detail because if any of you know anyone that you think might be interested in doing this, please help us get the word out, and they can contact Nick Tejas if they need any information or want to know a little bit more about what we're kind of looking for. So you also see there's a list of upcoming, our calendar. Midterms are in another month. I can't believe the semester is already moving by that quickly. And then we will have our commencement ceremony again in December. But a couple of other things that I want to mention specifically that are not in the written agenda. I want to mention the work session that we had a couple of weeks ago. This was Chair Gamble's creation and agenda, and I just wanted to thank Chair Gamble and the board and all the staff who participated, because I think it was a really productive meeting. We did also invite a representative from Achieving the Dream, Vicki Locke, who kind of helped facilitate and then did a presentation, but it was a really in-depth discussion. A lot of issues came up, and so we will move forward on that. One thing that did come up in that meeting and that we've been talking about a lot was the placement initiative that there was a task force that started working on this. I think it was October, November of last year. And so I'm really excited that we are, we've been working on this for many, many years, and I feel like we're at the point now where we're just about able to launch. And so the task force has given me their recommendations. I have given those recommendations to the faculty. We've gotten feedback from the faculty. So now we're in the implementation phase of putting the whole thing together. And so that will be rolling out pretty quickly. But the direction that I got from the board seemed to be pretty clear. And so we will be moving ahead with that pretty quickly. And I must, I do want to say that, I know this is something that the college has been working on for a long time, and I appreciate the work that's gone on before I ever came here. And that work kind of put us in the position to be where we are now. But, one of the things that is very exciting to me is that this is probably the biggest equity issue that the college can really make strides on right now in terms of increasing access for students in our community and making it easier for high school students to attend right after high school, and for people to return after they've been out for a while too. I also want to give go ahead, Linda.
Mr. Chair, on that point.
Yes, go ahead, Linda.
I just want to thank you, Becky, and thank all the staff for finally making this happen. I can't tell you how many years we have been talking about it, how the board, numerous boards have supported this change. And I'm so glad that we are seeing it now, and that I think it is really going to help our students get in college and hopefully stay in college, because they might be inspired by getting to take some of the classes that they really want to take. Even though they need these other classes, they need to have some ability to take classes that have brought them to the college to begin with. So thank you all for finally making this happen.
Well,
Yes, thank you for that, Linda. That was, yeah, very important.
well, thank you for your passion and your persistence in all of this, because it's helped for us to, it was hard to work on anything like this during the pandemic, but then, we've had some time to kind of regroup and to do all that. And, I got some valuable feedback from the faculty about some of the process that we can look at in terms of providing some kind of mapping for students so that they understand how placement works. And so, those are all really important suggestions that we will be able to implement. A couple of things that I want to mention about chess. So we had a strategic planning meeting a few weeks ago in Albuquerque for looking at what the presidents want to see for the student information system. And so the things that we're going to be looking at in the near future will be a common mechanism for reporting. So we all have to do IPEDS reporting and different types of state reporting. And so having a centralized way to do that will take a lot of time and pressure off of individual IR staffs, and they can work on things that are more important to the college in terms of providing the research and data for our own initiatives. We've also talked about, we are going to have a common application. And Linda, this may be something that you recall. I think we've been talking about this for 20 years, not just this small group, but the state of New Mexico has tried to get a common application for at least 20 years. And so we will. And, we will have a common process. And so as you apply to Santa Fe Community College, you will also be applying to all of the other colleges in the group. And so I think that, that is yet another reason why, it's important for us to all be on relatively the same page with different types of academic policies, admissions policies. We've talked about how the NIMNET curriculum has essentially common admission criteria, common prerequisites for people entering all the nursing programs that are part of NIMNEC. So, that's already there. We just need to use those commonalities and leverage that. There will certainly be things that we will all, continue doing kind of on our own and maintain our independence in. And that's been the design of the program from the inception. So we also talked about financial aid compliance. That's something that everybody's financial aid office is short staff right now. And that's a chronic issue. And so we're trying, to conceive of, looking at common measures for return of Title IV funds and things like that, where, we would still have our individual financial aid staffs, but maybe we could actually fully function with the number that we have now and not always be chronically short, because we can't ever seem to have, to hire enough to meet the demand, but to have a central person or people who would handle some of those routine processing things that are really more compliance issues that every college has to deal with, and that are kind of hard. We had a meeting a couple of days ago where we've hired a chess person who used to be a CNM employee named Trish Heaton, who is the training officer for the whole project. And she rolled out the plan for the kinds of training that all of our staff will receive. The training will vary between, depending upon what your role is in any organization. But everybody will receive training, because everybody will have to do things like report time or approve time or those kinds of things. But I had a high level of reassurance and confidence that these things that this is the best, most comprehensive training for an implementation that I've ever seen. And not that I've done lots of implementations, but I've done a few. And you always feel like people, they get trained like the second before they have to do something, or maybe the second after they should have done something. And so this is a very proactive and thorough training plan that I think is going to make the implementation a lot smoother for all of the people that are involved in this. On October the 17th, and we have a little bit of a glitch here. So the community colleges in New Mexico have planned and scheduled a conference to be held on October 17th in Santa Fe at the end of Loretto that is really geared towards legislators, but really, also a wider audience, and looking at the value and how to create a deeper infrastructure for mostly non-credit certificates. We all do a lot of this work. There's a lot more demand from employers for this work, big employers and little employers, but there's not any kind of a mechanism through our funding formula for us to be able to fund this. So we either have to charge a really high fee for them, which creates problems sometimes, or we have to figure out different ways. Sometimes the Department of Workforce Solutions will fund them, but there's never anything consistent. It's always, we have to figure this out every time we offer something new. And so we're bringing in some people from other states who have already worked through a lot of these issues and can maybe give some suggestions that we can look at going forward. We picked this day because it's the day before the LFC meets in Santa Fe in October, but we just found out that LFC just scheduled a tour of the lab on that day, so we're going to have to do some checking around and see if we can still get the people that we need to attend. And then I also think that we will be including some of our local economic development folks because they have a strong interest in this. We've already been working with them, and I think that they can really help further the conversation with legislators too. So I'll keep you posted on how that rolls out. And then I do want to just give a little bit of an update on the LFC meeting that was held in Taos. I guess that was last week. Sorry, my sense of time sometimes, it was last week. So the higher education subcommittee met last week in Taos, and this comes up very frequently. So I don't really know that I think that I'm nervous enough about it that I think anything is going to come of it, but I certainly think it's something for us to keep in mind. But legislators were talking again about how our funding for all of our appropriations is largely based on our 2012 enrollment numbers, which are fully 40% higher than what our current enrollment numbers are. And so if they were to, and everybody's, they handed out data, and maybe ours is more like 36%, but they handed out data. Everybody's enrollment is significantly lower now than it was in 2012. And so, there's a lot of question about, well, your budgets are going up, but your enrollment is going down. What's going on here? How can we keep doing this? Why do we keep doing this? And, the budget is a whole lot more complicated than just, paying us per head. And so, we've been talking about what we have to do now to meet demands federally, especially, but also statewide in terms of trying to work with students on a more individualized basis so that we can improve our retention rates, which ultimately we hope will improve our graduation rates. But, there's still a whole lot of work to be done in those areas. And all of those kinds of programs that support those measures cost a lot. So it's not a simple swap out like, well, you don't have as many students, so you shouldn't need as much money. But they are raising those questions, and they could look into that. I do know that Chair Lundstrom has made that comment many times that I've heard. And so it is something that could come up. One thing that they did suggest was that more of our formula funding be attributed to student credit hours, which, would probably reduce a lot of our funding. I don't know if they're going to do that or not. They had a funding formula subcommittee that met once or twice this summer. It doesn't seem that the funding formula is it's not HED's, it's not their focus. they're looking at other things, I think, more than they are the funding formula. So they have not really met a lot and talked about making changes. At this point, I don't think it's possible to make changes. I don't think we could make those kind of changes and incorporate them for this year. But I think, it's something that we always need to be mindful about in terms of, being cognizant of our own budget. And when, people ask me like why we're not still doing this, part of the answer, the simplest answer is we can't do everything. We can do one thing like, pay for full-blown food services, but then we're not going to be able to do something else. And that something else is probably going to be something that provides direct services to students. And so when we have to make those kinds of choices, I mean, I feel like the responsible choice is that we do the things that are going to provide direct support to our services, and then move on from there. So we have our bond money is healthy, as Nick will tell you, but that's not an endless supply of anything either. But there, our tuition revenue is not as high as it has been, obviously, because we don't have as many students. And our appropriation is it's been pretty I would say consistent. It's gone up a little bit, but it's certainly not going to grow. But it is possible that if they really got serious about this, that they could cut it. We'll see. I would also defer to Member Siegel's advice on these kinds of things, because I think that you seem to have a better crystal ball than I do. I'm just kind of going off of, well, we hear that and then it doesn't really happen. But that was kind of the focus of the meeting, the higher ed subcommittee in Taos. I think that committee might have concluded. They might meet one more time in the interim in October, but they keep poking that issue without delving too far deeply into it. But I think we have to be prepared if they do decide to delve into it, because it will necessitate some changes. So I think that concludes my report, and I am happy to stand for any questions.
Linda.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Becky, so you and I have talked about this, but has it come up at any meetings where there would be a bill language that would assure that credits for particular degrees, when one goes to a community college and gets an associate in some area, that those credits would transfer to the 4 years?
Not in, Member Siegel, Chair Gamble, I have not heard anything that I would call a serious conversation about that recently. I think HED would need to be kind of the driver of that. And we know that in most other states, that is something that has been legislated. And so there are either, majors, modules, degree plans where, for example, and I think maybe early childhood education kind of had a little bit of a head start on this, but I don't think there's been the kind of follow through that you would maybe expect, where there was a common curriculum for early childhood education. And so if students took those particular classes at a community college, they would transfer into that first, you would essentially have 2 years completed at the 4-year school. That is not a perfect thing that's happening. So, I would say that other than what the transfer that happens in nursing, it's not very good. And so gradually what's happened is certain 4-year colleges have, added in new requirements and said, okay, well, that's great. You took that. We'll count it as an elective, but we're still going to require that you take these 5 classes on our campus. And that's where the problem is. I think that's wrong on so many levels, but I think that it's going to take a legislative solution to make that happen, just depending upon the goodwill of whoever the particular administrators are at the time is not good enough, because it goes forward and then it goes backward.
Right. Well, I think we should start that dialogue at the community college level and then we can start working with our HED secretary on that issue.
Okay,
Right.
I would be happy to, and I can bring that up. We'll have an NMICC meeting in a week, and I will mention that there. And the other thing, you know, we're having a regular quarterly board meeting for NMICC on the 18th of October, also in conjunction with LFC. And I think that's I can get that on the agenda as a bigger issue that we need to really work on. And then, you know, we'll need to get legislative backing for that too. And I'm pretty sure that Secretary Rodriguez will be at that meeting.
And this seems like something LFC should jump on, because it's cost savings to, well, maybe they don't care about cost savings to the student, but
Right, yeah.
it is.
Well, I think they do. I think it, you know, it kind of vacillates in its order of importance for them, depending upon what's going on. But I think that overall, they support this type of thinking, because it's better for students. You know, the only one that could maybe argue that they don't benefit is a four-year school that says, well, we used to be able to get everybody to take accounting on our campus, and now we can't, or something like that.
Well, given several things. One, isn't this a topic that should be part of the chess discussion? And, you know, shouldn't that be a decision at the educational institution level rather than at the political level? Secondly, I noticed on the news last night, there happened to be a segment on precisely this issue nationally. And indeed, it seemed like the four-year schools were embracing the idea, because guess what? Their enrollment is also dropping. So they're looking for more. But indeed, isn't it something Chess should be talking about?
Mr. Chair, and yes, so what Chess will do, you know, we have one four-year college in our mix right now. And so, and we are actively talking to others. And so if you were the four-year institution in that mix, you could easily get the transfer students from almost all of those colleges. And I mean, that is the bulk of the community college enrollment in the state, when you have CNM and San Juan in the group. So right now, the way transfer works is transfer credit is always at the discretion of the receiving institution or the four-year college. So yes, they want transfer students, but a lot of times there's a breakdown between, you know, what the college president may say in terms of, yes, we want all your transfer students, but then there may be a departmental issue where they're going to say, everybody who comes into this department has to take these 3 classes with us. And so even if you've taken them at a community college and you're trying to transfer them in, you essentially have to retake them. And that's what happens pretty often in New Mexico. And when you have these kind of legislative agreements like that, it prevents that from happening, because we haven't seemed to be able, you know, their four-year colleges just haven't gotten on board and done that. So they definitely want our transfer students. They all want our transfer students, but they're not going to guarantee that they're going to take everything. You know, here's the sad reality. It's easier to transfer to Texas. It really is. So when you take as like a high school student, you know, like all your gen eds from, you know, with dual credit, it's easier to get those credits to transfer as credit in the discipline in Texas than it is in New Mexico. And so, and part of the problem is just that the colleges have had a whole lot of discretion, complete discretion in what they want to do. And we have had cabinet secretaries or legislators in the past that have gotten more involved in this and have really kind of gone at this from a student perspective and said, you know, if you've taken A and P at Santa Fe Community College, you should not have to take A and P again when you go to UNM or New Mexico State if you want to be a kinesiology major or something like that.
Right.
So those are the kinds of things. You know, people do tend to lose more credits doing that. And you know, I don't know the details, but I hear all kinds of anecdotes about how that even happens between a branch campuses and the 4-year parent institution.
Wow.
That would indicate that we have some work to do in streamlining it. And I think there is a lot of will to do it, but we just need to be all at the same table and doing that. And so Chess will do what it can, but we do not have any leverage over 4-year institutions in our state, other than to say, you know, I guess we could boycott transferring there, but that wouldn't be very student oriented either. But we might be able to get them to listen a little bit more, because we will have strength in numbers.
And if we advertise widely that our students are transferring to Texas 4-year schools, we're saying, hey, look at this leak out of the state. You know, that should motivate them.
Yeah, and legislators bring that up. I'm not exactly sure what those numbers are, but depending upon, and you know, part of that's going to happen anyway. It's just, you know, there are cultural reasons why people decide to go one place or another or whatever. But if we made transfer smoother, I think that would help. And HED did have a transfer summit a few months ago, so this is on their radar, and they are interested in it. But you know, they don't really have the authority, I don't think, to really make a rule that's going to be enforceable. And that is a little bit of a problem.
Yeah. Okay. Questions, comments for Becky?
Thank you.
Any other? Becky, I have a few.
Sure.
Everything that's happening with Chess sounds wonderful. One of the questions I have is, I know that ultimately we'd like all the schools in the state to be members of Chess. How is that going in terms of informing all the schools who are currently not members about progress, about advantages, and yeah, getting them on board as soon as possible? What is that?
So, you know, we have been informing all of our, you know, peers. You know, it'll be kind of interesting to see. So Southeastern New Mexico College, I think that's the name, is a newly formed independent college in Carlsbad. They used to be a branch of New Mexico State, and they are very well resourced, and they will be getting a new president within the next couple of months or something like that. They're in the latter stages of their search. So colleges like that, I think, you know, we are interested in recruiting. You know, it's kind of a tricky thing with the branches in New Mexico, because they have an agreement with their parent institution that makes it a little bit more difficult for them. I'll tell you too, that one thing we have also been doing, and part of this is, you know, it's a financial thing in terms of growing the organization, but also in terms of finding colleges that are trying to do the same thing. But we have been approached kind of a lot by colleges from Arizona, Wyoming, Texas, kind of in our surrounding area, where they're looking at, you know, they want to be part of something like this. We are more mature than, you know, they're, you know, to start something like this is doable, but hard. And so, you know, there are several of them that we're talking to pretty seriously about the possibility of allowing them to join in a different format than what, you know, the Mexico schools are, but being able to at least, you know, contract on back office things to where we can all get our costs down and then achieve like some serious efficiencies by having colleges with really good processes join our organization. So that is all, you know, very you know, we're talking, we're meeting, but right now the real focus is on the implementation that's right in front of us, because you know, partly the deadline on that's really key for trying to get future funding and things like that. We need to do what we said we were going to do.
Right, yeah. Okay, great, good. Another question, the nursing faculty stipends, that $2 million, is that, how's that gonna be spent? Linda, is that salaries? Is that endowment? It's an endowment for salaries? Is that primarily it? Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
The food and agricultural curriculum meeting in a workshop in October, is that going to be hosted at SFCC or is it off campus?
I think it is going to be, it is going to be hosted at the college. And if there's somebody who knows that for sure, please speak up. You know, it's nice for SFCC to get the recognition. I mean, we are clearly a leader in this sphere.
Zuby, do you have any idea? Okay. All right.
I'll find that out. I'll find that out and get back to you, Chair.
That's right. Boy, the lighting package for the gallery, my gosh, we're saving gazillion dollars. That's fantastic. You know, yeah, that's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to sort of comment on. Yeah. Any other questions, comments? Yeah, Pierre.
Chair Gamble, President Riley, I have a couple of questions about kind of the reopening of campus, if you will. It kind of feels like the open house was the, hey, remember we're here, don't forget about us, and we're back in person, which is awesome. And I'm sorry I couldn't be there. I have visited the coffee shop, which is really nice. I was actually there this morning to grab a quick coffee. And I'm curious, can you share what's happening in terms of student support services, hours, availability? I mean, it seems like we have more part-time students than we have had before, or not before, but we have an increase. We're seeing more part-time students, which implies that maybe more people are working during regular business hours. Can you share if we are offering any services after hours, or what services are available in person? Have we ramped up services online? Yeah, I'm just curious what we're doing to accommodate people who may be working.
Yes, Member Quintana, Chair Gamble. So I will say that we have extended our service hours online to meet the needs of students. And we're kind of experimenting with what the need is, you know, and so it may be that we need to increase them a little bit more. I would really defer to Thomasina if she has more details about, you know, how this is working.
Excuse me.
You know, we do have, you know, everything is staffed on campus during the regular hours fully, but really what a lot of people are choosing, and you know, if people do need to access our service in the evening, they do generally try to access those online. So Thomasina, if you want to fill in all the gaps I left there.
And
Thank you,
Thomasina, sorry to jump in really quick, but just to help guide maybe some of the services I'm most interested in knowing more about would be like tutoring services, for example. Right, and of course, any other student services, but I'm really curious about what's happening with tutoring services.
Thank you, Member Quintana and Chair Gabel and President Raleigh. So tutoring services are extended throughout the online and in person and throughout the day and evenings. I don't have an actual schedule. to let you know exactly where and what, but where the needs are is where the director, Robert Gutierrez, and I believe he may be online as well. And he's identified through collaboration with the deans exactly perhaps where some of the key areas that really need a little bit more emphasis in, and really working on trying to get tutors within those spaces. And I think he's here, and if he is, I'm sure he'll chime in. But with regards to all the other services, we are on a 3-2 kind of roundabout, 3 days on campus, 2 days remote. Every office is open on campus. If they are working remote, they have extended hours until 6 p.m. We are working with students and seeing an increased need to have services until about 6 p.m. And we're also looking at other services that might extend beyond the 6 p.m. as well as perhaps some third-party services that we're looking into as well to continue to exceed those services for our students. And Robert is here, so I'm going to toss it over to him so he can explain a little bit more of what's happening in the tutoring area.
Member Quintana, the tutoring center currently is using different types of modalities, and I'll give you a kind of a quick overview of what we're doing. We first contracted with a company called BrainFuse online tutoring service, which is available to students 24/7, and they can access this through their Canvas course homepage. It takes care of the main subjects that we have, so they can access that 24/7. All right. We also are embedding tutors into specific courses, and what that is that we have there's different profiles within Canvas, which is there's a student profile, the instructor profile, and these they also have a librarian profile. We've created a tutor profile with certain access, and usually these are peer tutors that are picked by instructors that we embed them into the class itself. So they don't really have to go anywhere. They have that tutor embedded into their course. And again, it can be an asynchronous course, a synchronous course, or even an on-ground course. So that doesn't matter. We can embed them into that course. Then we also have our online, our tutors here with the community college that are here with us. They're doing both online and in person. Students can make appointments through bookings just like they can do with any other student services. We try to make it consistent with all the rest of the student services. So what happens is a student can go in there and book an appointment with a tutor. They choose the subject matter, the time, and the date. They indicate there's a drop-down box to say, do I want to do this online or in person? If it's in person, it gives them instructions when they get their confirmation notice. There's instructions where the tutoring center is. If they choose online, each tutor has an SFCC Zoom account with the college, and it's a direct link that the students just click on that direct link at the time of their appointment and can connect with the tutor. Some tutors that we have are just do in person, some do online, and some do both. Main thing is to try to meet the needs of our students. So sometimes maybe a student cannot meet during the times that we're open, and we really do try to figure out the logistics and accommodate them. And there's tutors that have tutored in on the weekend or after 5. So we try to, they'll contact me, and we try to work out those logistics. I hope that answers your question, Member Quintana.
It does. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? If not, thank you, President Rowley. And we move on to Dr. Ortiz Gallegos and the enrollment report.
There we go. Good afternoon, Chair Gamble, members of the board. Just earlier today, we sent you all an updated report for the enrollment as of this morning that included some very detailed information about our student population and where we're at today. We'll notice that this particular report is a comparison to end of term fall 2021 We're very excited to share that with regards to headcount, we are up 4%. And with regards to credit hours, we are up 2%. So this is really exciting news to show that all of the hard work that the college is doing and the return of our students, and that we're able to really fulfill their needs and continuing to see this increase. When we compare our race and ethnicity, we really see the most significant increases within three particular populations that include our Hispanic, White, and American Indian students. We are really looking at and probably staying within the median age of about 25 to 30 years old at SFCC. The biggest increases for us this particular semester has been within our 45 to 54-year-olds, 55 to 64, and 65 and older. Our comparison between our male and female population remains the same. This has been pretty consistent over the past few semesters and is a consistent trend of what we're seeing on a national level as well. When we take a look and discuss a little bit more about our student type, we really are excited to see our continuing student trend be at the level that it is. And these are students who are continuing with us from semester to semester, so persistence and retention are huge. And we're happy to see this particular number continuing to grow. We're also happy to see that our new students our new student population has also grown. And within our new student population, when we look at the race and ethnicity of our students, we're looking at our Hispanic, White, and American Indian students. Those are the three general populations that have grown the most at SFCC. And you see the breakdown that we've provided here a little bit with regards to how many students in general really accounted for that new student population. We're happy to continue to maintain within the credit load that we've seen over the past couple of academic years. Again, seeing this 16%, this red box up at the top continuing to grow means that we have students who are taking 12 or more credits. We have a larger population taking anywhere from 6 to 11 credits. So these are our part-time students, as Member Quintana was just talking about them a minute ago. And then we are continuing to see about half of our students who are taking 0 to 5 credits. And these typically are about our 65-year-olds who are taking perhaps a fitness course or woodworking or art course, a 1 credit hour to 3 credit hour courses. This is our cumulative enrollment week by week. We will see that we are up this particular week for registration. Registration for the second 8 weeks will continue through the middle of October. The second 8-week session starts on October the 16th. So we have about 2 to 3 more weeks for students to enroll in these second 8-week classes. We are doing a lot of outreach and encouraging and notifying our students about these opportunities. And then just a few weeks after that, beginning on November the 6th, we'll start with early registration for the spring semester. If you can imagine that, it seems like it's come too quickly for us, but we're definitely excited and we're very prepared to receive our students on November the 6th to prepare them for spring term. With that report, Chair Gamble, I stand for any questions. Our colleague Marcos Maez could not be with us today. He's actually at the College and Career Plaza at Santa Fe Public Schools this afternoon, and he sends his best regards, and he has indicated that there will be a full dual credit report coming in October as well.
Great. Thank you, Tomasina. Comments or questions for Dr. Ortiz Gallegos? I have a question, Tomasina. Note the change, one of the substantial changes is in returning students from last year to this year. And what I'm wondering, from over 1,000 to about 800, what I'm wondering is sort of breaking that down a little more and understanding more who are those returning students and what group has changed within that. I mean, I imagine there are several different demographics in there. Is that something that you can probe and learn more about?
Most definitely, Chair Gamble, and I can definitely have a more thorough report on our returning students next go around. Just right now on the surface, what we're seeing are several students who are returning for re-careering. Some of it is due to the Opportunity Scholarship, so we'll be tying that together and seeing if there was a direct correlation. And so we'll have more information more than likely after midterm. So hopefully by the October meeting, we can break all of that information down for you and let you know a little bit more about our returning students.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I know all kinds of things are happening in people's lives. And for us to be able to figure out some of those things, we can both help students to come in and become students and also increase our enrollment. Any other comments or questions for Thomasina? If not, thank you, Thomasina.
Thank you.
And now we'll move on to, the Deborah Bolt in the Foundation fourth quarter report. Deborah Bolt, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can also see you.
Great.
Welcome.
Thank you, Chair Gamble. Today marks my last report to the governing board because I will be officially retiring on November 1st. So rather than take you through the report, I wanted to express my gratitude to the college for the privilege of working for the past 12 years as the executive director of the foundation. When I came on board all those years ago, my mission was to grow the endowment, engage donors in the college initiatives, and help as many students as possible. I'm proud to say that Kelly and I, with the help of committed faculty and staff, have leveraged over $22 million in private funds while growing the endowment from 4 million to as high as 12 million. It's meant the world to me to have worked with so many passionate people that care about making education accessible for our students. My work at the foundation's been very rewarding and satisfying, but it's time for me to start a new chapter in my life and finally have time to take classes at the college. I am delighted to be able to pass the baton to Kelly Marquez, who will be the next executive director. I've had the pleasure of working with Kelly for 11 years, and I'm proud of the infrastructure we've built together. Kelly will be the first Hispanic woman to lead the foundation. She's highly skilled and talented, and I'm excited to see the foundation's growth under her leadership. It won't be easy to say goodbye to the foundation. However, under Kelly's leadership, I know it'll thrive. So I'd like to ask Kelly for any comments she has and also to be available to answer any questions from our report. Kelly?
Well, Deborah, certainly it's certainly a challenge for us to say goodbye to you.
Thanks.
You have provided great leadership in the foundation.
Oh, you make me cry too.
You make us all cry, Chair.
Yes. So, thank you.
Chair Gamble, before we move on, I just want to express my thanks to Deborah. You've been an inspiration, so thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you.
And we're very happy to welcome Kelly and work with her. She's been doing a great job, and you've tutored her very well.
And she's tutored me right back.
We expect big things from her. So multi-million dollars.
No pressure.
No worries.
Thank you for all your years of service, Deborah. You've done a fantastic job, and I think this is a beautiful transition. really look forward to working with Kelly over the next few years.
Thank you.
So Kelly, do you want to say anything about the foundation report?
Chair Gamble, President Rowley, members of the board, I really appreciate your time today. I wanted to let you know that for our year end, we raised $1.8 million. So that's a really nice, significant number. I wanted to talk about our leading stars of grant writers, and that is Tekla Johnson and Katrin Allred, who have raised so many millions of dollars for the foundation for their programs. And I just really appreciate all that they have done to make sure that we get what we need for our early childhood. I went to an event recently and I spoke to a student who received a Mano del Norte scholarship, and she was talking about her child who has a learning disability, and she wants to make sure that she can get the services for her child that she needs. And through the programs that we provide here at SFCC, she is going to be a champion for many generations of children to come. So thank you guys very much. And you're going to make me cry. So on to bigger and better things. I wanted to extend invitation to everybody on the board for October 19th. The foundation has its regularly scheduled meeting from 3 to 4 p.m. at the Higher Education Center. And then from 4 to 5, we're going to have some refreshments in honor of Deborah's retirement. I will send an official invitation tomorrow. And so if you could and would like to, we would really love to see you in person at this event. Thank you very much, and I will stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Any comments or questions for Kelly or for Deborah? Anyone wants to ask Deborah where she's going? We're going to do a around the world trip first, or?
No, really, I've just signed up for classes.
Probably fundraising classes, right?
Nope.
Okay, if no further questions or comments for Kelly or Deborah, we could move on to Faculty Senate report.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Patrick Simpson calling in by telephone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My connectivity is a little weak, so I'm going to try my best. Like I said, this is Patrick Simpson. I'm the Vice President of the Faculty Senate, and I have just a brief report to the board today. From our last meeting, there were some policy changes that were proposed, and I think that we are slowly working them out with the administration, and we want to express our gratitude for that. There was one change that was proposed that was causing a lot of heartburn, and I think we will probably be able to move past that. Even within what remains as a very troublesome policy review process that is now codified in policy, we'll step aside from that and work with this problem. Other than that, if I might say to the board, the only other thing that I think that is worth talking about from the last meeting is goodbye to Megan Hopkins, one of our adjunct members, and we had a little ceremony for her in college, and I think that's all that really goes into the report. Unless anybody has any questions.
Patrick, I'm not sure that I understood everything. The audio was not particularly clear, but I will open it up to any other questions people have about anything or comments on your report.
I had a question. I saw both in your report and in the minutes, a lot of frustration with the policy review process. And I wasn't entirely clear what has changed in the process and what what would you like to see changed in how we send policies through the governance bodies?
Well, if I thank you, Board Member Wilson. The prior process was really cumbersome and slow, and having spent a lot of time in the state legislature, it echoed that. It's frustrating, it's cumbersome, it's slow. It's really hard to get policy changes through, but it's such a robust process in that the proponent for change stands before the faculty senate and the staff senate to answer questions.
Somewhat.
And we don't have that anymore. We have a process by which the proposed changes are given to us, and we're required to receive, and that's nice to have it documented. But there's no exchange of ideas. There's no question and answer. It's not the same dynamic process that frankly we're used to. I'm not saying that what is in board policy now is incorrect or illegal or anything like that. It's just not nearly as dynamic and not nearly as informative as it used to be.
I guess it sounded like in the minutes that instead of taking time to answer questions, that kind of what was already sent out is being repeated at the meeting. Is there a reason given why they cannot answer questions at the meeting?
Well, the policy says that doesn't make room for that. I don't know that the policy required it or even allowed it in the previous form, but it was just something that we always did. And now, because the process is all supposed to be done in writing, that's how the policy amendment process is now. It's all in writing.
Member Wilson, if I could clarify something. So I think that what we're experiencing is we haven't really quite gotten used to the change. So the change is that if the faculty or the staff have suggestions, edits, whatever, those have to be in writing. And that is the best practice. You know, the editing on the fly that used to go on sometimes was really chaotic and just not really good. But what should not be happening, but I'm afraid might have been not communicated as clearly as it should be, and I will try to do my best to fix that. There is no reason at all why if a policy owner comes to your meeting and you want to ask questions about the policy, that's exactly why they should be there. You know, you all get the draft of the policy and everybody can read the draft, and you don't need to have somebody come and read the draft to you, or, you know, just hit the highlights or whatever. That if they're coming to the meeting, it's your meeting and you should be able to ask questions. But then whatever is raised as an issue, those issues need to be presented in writing later on, you know, but you know, that's why, you know, you have somebody at the meeting taking minutes, notes, whatever, and then those notes can be put in writing. But if you want to ask, you know, which I would think, you know, a lot of policies are not that, their change is not substantial, but sometimes they are. And I understand your question about the policy on sexual harassment, which I will say has not even made it to executive team or to the board yet. So you guys are way ahead in your review than anyone else. But yeah, that's a legitimate question. And so, you know, bringing that forward and asking that to the person who's bringing it forward is certainly, I think, a legitimate response. And so I don't want it all to make it, you know, for the appearance to be that there's not supposed to be any questions. It's just that the questions themselves and then whatever direction you are recommending from those questions, that has to be presented in writing. And that's really, that's the, and then we tried to tighten up the timeline a little bit, but I've already said, if you need more time, we can give more time. So, you know, we'll just say that part's negotiable, but no, there should not, no one should be thinking that you cannot ask questions of policy owners when they come to to any of the constituency group meetings. And so I will try to clear that up on my end if that's a misconception.
Might it be possible for us to get kind of a brief, not a long, but a brief presentation at a future meeting about what the process is? So it's not entirely clear to me from the descriptions how this works. Is it anyone can put something forth in writing, or does it have to come from the body? Or what is this, how something comes in writing, in what form, from who?
It just has to be in writing. That's all. That's the only thing. It doesn't matter. It can be, you know, you can do it the way you want, you know, like if they want to, if there's like a list of 5 suggestions and that you want to put in writing and send those on to Laura, that's fine. Or if you want to craft a statement that comes from the body, that's fine too, or both. It would be however it's, you know, and I think it depends upon what you perceive as the magnitude of the change and things like that, because you know, like I said, you know, like one of the policies that's going around now is changing the name of student affairs from student services to student affairs. That is probably not going to be something that people are going to have a whole lot of question about. But when you're talking about changing some of the language in a policy on sexual harassment, yeah, that's kind of a big thing. And a lot of it is very compliance related, and our attorney had suggested it, but you know, I followed up on one of the suggested changes, and she said, no, really, you know, we don't need to do that. So I would prefer that we don't, because you would prefer that we don't, and we don't need to, so let's just leave it.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Sorry,
If I may,
please.
add one thought. Thank you. That's an enormous clarification for us from President Rowley. We were all sort of operating on I think on both sides of the table, the presenter and the audience. We were operating under the understanding that it was just a presentation and not a discussion. So if it's open to discussion, that's quite the game changer. And I think that gets us more closely back to what we were doing before, without a lot of the sloppiness and a lot of the delay, which I certainly understand why people don't want to have anymore.
Well, thank you, Patrick. I'm happy to follow up on that if I need to, but I don't really see the point. You should be able to discuss what you need to discuss. I mean,
okay,
it's your meeting too.
That sounds great. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Any other comment, question for Patrick? If not, we'll go to the staff Senate report. Do we have a? Yes.
Yes.
Robert Gutierrez.
Chair Gamble, members of the board, President Rowley, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to be presenting on behalf of Staff Senate. I first want to thank Dr. Rowley for the clarification on that policy review. I think we were kind of under the same assumption as Faculty Senate, so thank you for the clarification on that. That helps us move forward. First thing I want to talk about is that co-chair Chris Gettler has resigned from his position on Staff Senate. All staff expressed their gratitude for his exemplary service this year. Chris still plays a vital role in Staff Senate. He contributes. He has just chosen not to be co-chair anymore. So we respect that decision. I've known Chris for many, many years, and he did a tremendous job in this last year of service. Staff Senate is currently seeking nominees for this position, to serve out the remaining year of Chris's term. So we're in that process right now. Next piece is the review and acceptance of reporting roles for committee updates. Reporting members were asked to confirm their commitment for the new semester. We were just reaching out to the representatives of each committee to decide whether they wanted to stay on as that representative or change representatives. A major piece that we talked about was the student loan forgiveness information that's been coming out recently. Staff was interested in this information and how they can get additional information. So, you know, some staff are still currently paying off their student loans, right? And it's not our students, but our staff. And, there was questions like, who's eligible? Are they eligible? Where do I find this information? Staff members who were eligible and are going through this process right now shared their findings and information. This is really great for all staff members. Also, HR in their newsletter, sent some information specific to this topic, and that was greatly appreciated. It was just perfect timing. Staff members wanted to thank all those who were involved in the following events: the joint open house with IAIA, the Hispanic Heritage Month celebration, the free flu vaccine event that was overseen by HR. Staff members were very appreciative of all who were involved in coordinating these events. We all understand that there's a lot of behind the scenes that goes on to prepare for these events. And we just wanted to thank everybody for their support. Staff feels that because of these events, a sense of community is coming back to the college, which has been needed since the pandemic. So a lot of people during our last staff senate meeting, which is not in your notes, were very appreciative of these recent events that we had. Last staff senate continues to promote a holistic approach to the well-being of all staff members. And with that, Chair Gamble, I stand for any questions.
Thank you very much, Robert. Comments or questions for Mr. Gutierrez?
Hello, Chair Gamble. I have a question.
Please.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. When I looked at your report, I think it was page 3. I can't seem to open all the windows at once, but you talked about in your top bullet that there's a loss of shared governance practices at SFCC. But then you identified that it's an area of weakness in recent accreditation reports. And so I was wondering where that information came from and which accreditation report, because I haven't seen that and I'd like to follow up on that.
Chair Gamble, members of the board, President Rowley, Member Pugh, that I actually think that came on that page 3 was from the joint faculty and staff meeting that we had during convocation. And I think that was something that the faculty had expressed.
Okay. There's just a clarification. There's no such reports from the HLC relating to that at all. So that is not accurate from the HLC's perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Yash. I had not ever seen that before, and so I just wanted to run it to ground, see how factual it was.
Yeah.
And
Matter of fact,
if the report existed, I would like to see it.
Matter of fact, at our last accreditation reports, we passed that with flying colors.
Right, we've passed. So the last couple accreditation reports we've passed with flying colors. So that's what really caught my eye. I thought maybe there was some kind of accreditation out there I wasn't familiar with.
No, our main accreditation issue right now, as we have worked hard with the faculty members, is about assessment of student learning outcomes. We got to make sure we continue to report that and continue to document faculty credentials, which we know our faculty are qualified. So those are the 2 items.
Oh, thank you. So, Robert, I guess the one thing I would ask is if you would just take that back to the staff and the faculty that is actually not correct. And if somebody has a place that exists, I would certainly like to see it.
Chair Gamble, members of the board, President Rowley. Yeah, Member Pugh, I appreciate that. I appreciate Yash for the clarification, and then I will bring that back. It did come from the faculty side, so that was what was discussed, and I think it was the notes from that. But I'll get together with the faculty chair, and we'll make sure that we're on the same page on that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And once again, I mean, if something exists out there in writing, I'm certainly open to seeing it. I just want to make sure we stay factual. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Robert? If not, we'll move.
I have two questions.
Oh, please.
One is there anything from what you understand now for that loan forgiveness? Is there anything that the college needs to do in support of members of the staff being able to seek the loan forgiveness?
Member Wilson, I'm not sure. I think there was a lot of, it was most of the, and I think Member Quintana would like to chime in, but most of it was just other staff members sharing their experiences. You know, what they've done, what's worked for them, were they eligible? That was mostly what the discussion was about.
So, Chair Gamble, Mr. Gutierrez, I had yesterday, so I work at St. John's, which is a qualifying institution for anyone who's working there and has student loans. Our financial aid department gave staff and faculty a presentation on how they can apply. So I have clipped some information that was returned to me from those folks who specialize in this work, which is really helpful, with an embedded link that you could share with staff and faculty. But it would be really nice if either the HR department or financial aid or both can do a collaborative presentation for staff and faculty who have student loans and what the process is for getting the documentation certified at SFCC. So there is a form that you have to fill out where SFCC would have to verify employment to make sure that the qualifying payment, that you worked for a qualifying institution while you were making these payments. And SFCC does qualify because I have gone through the process. And I know Joanne Romero was well aware of what the form was and what needed to be filled out. And I know they have new folks there, but I'm sure they also know what needs to be done. But that may be something that would be a great service and resource to employees of the college.
Thank you, Member Quintana. I think that was the actual link that was sent from HR itself, from our department.
Yeah, because we have a month and it has to get turned in the next month. I'm also happy to reach out to my contact at St. John's. It has a wonderful, lovely presentation that they have sent to me. And if I have permission to share it, I will also share that.
That would be great, Member Quintana. That would be much appreciated by staff, Senator.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll ask and then I'll send it to Becky if I get that permission.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I guess my other question was there was concerns about incursions with third-party organizations coming in, so that whereas food service bookstore used to be employees of the college and subject to the same rules and being part of the same community, similar benefits and whatnot. How broad is that?
I was talking to somebody yesterday and they're like, you guys should be asking for everything you want this session.
I know.
No.
Tekla Johnson, your mic is not muted.
Considering, you know, we're gonna need more funding.
Yeah. Okay.
So is that a broad concern?
Where did
And
they go?
it was also mentioned that
I joined, but now I
one of the counselors may be by a third-party organization also. Are you concerned that we are outsourcing instead of hiring staff at this point?
Member Wilson, Mr. Chair, so for counseling, we are contracting with third-party service in addition to what we're doing on campus. So that is an add-on because we want to be able to provide much more extended online hours than what we can provide. Even if we hired 2 or 3 counselors, we wouldn't be able to come near that level of service. So that's what we're trying, seeing how it goes. But as far as food services and the bookstore go, the problem is we simply can't afford to do that. And we were running in the at least $200,000 in the red. And that is likely, especially during, given the way the supply chain issues and everything now, that would have been compounded. I don't even know how many times. So, we ask, we get to approve the vendors that we hire. And so we are trying to find vendors that we feel like will, treat their employees, but those are their employees, but they're not college employees we are hiring employees to do other things like serve our students. And so, you know, our budget is finite, and yes, we could take on the bookstore. We really can't. I mean, we can't run it to where we're not subsidizing it, because what's supposed to happen with auxiliary, they provide a service, they make a profit, or at least enough money to cover their expenses, and the college is not out any money. We haven't been able to do that for years. Almost no one in the state still runs their own food operations and bookstore for exactly those reasons. And so we have to outsource them to somebody else, to a third party. I don't anticipate anything else. I can't think of anything else that we would need to outsource. And like I said, the counseling thing, that's not an outsourcing, that's just an addition. It's kind of like, you know, Robert mentioned BrainFuse, and that's contracting with an outside service that we would have to hire dozens of people to provide the kind of that level. But businesses that have, you know, figured out a way to scale those enterprises, then we can contract for a reasonable price. And that's what we did with the counseling services and it's specifically for online after hours type stuff.
So was it a misunderstanding that a counselor is being replaced by this service? It's an in addition to?
It's an in addition to. So we had one person leave, and then we still have a director of counseling. And we are, instead of replacing the one person, which we have had a very difficult time keeping two people, we are trying to supplement with this other group. That does not mean that if we need to hire another person on our campus, we will. Because this group that we're hiring, they won't do on-campus work. I mean, that's not what their role is. And so if we need more on campus, we will hire on campus.
Is there any way that when we have campus events that we can allow the employees? I mean, what I was hearing in the minutes was that somehow it was creating a schism and that they were breaking up the campus community. Is there a way that we can allow? I know that we can't. I'm not suggesting we should run our own food service or bookstore at this point. I understand why that's not realistic, but can we involve them, allow them to come to our Christmas or our holiday party or things like that, or allow them to feel as though they still are? And the other question, I guess, was how different are the rules they're subject to and discipline? Do we have any, if somebody is acting out in ways that are inappropriate for our staff, do we have any say as to how they can be disciplined or make sure that everyone is more or less following the same rules?
We wouldn't have any input into their personnel situations, but we do have like a reciprocal agreement where if say, for example, there was an employee at the bookstore that we had issues with, then we would, you know, we have a representative who would meet with the Barnes & Noble representative and they would work that out. But we would not have any say into the discipline of that person. Now, I have, you know, if it ever got so bad that we could request that person not be able to work here, I think we could do that. But, you know, we would have to be very, you know, really careful and deliberate in our discussions with them and everything. But because part of contracting with an independent business means that, you know, they have to fit in. They can't come in and have like an entirely different culture than what we have and expect that this is going to work out. And I mean, part of what we even evaluate them on as we decide whether or not they're a viable partner are those kinds of issues, you know, like how they treat their employees and things like that. And so if it ever did become a concern, you can bet that we would be letting them know that we have issues with how they're operating, and then that would have to be, they would have to deal with that. But you know, they have their own, it's essentially a corporate structure. And so they will, you know, we get the good and the bad of that.
And there are in a lot of our HR policies specific language about third-party vendors being on campus, I believe.
There are some in that they have to follow our policies and in terms of, you know, for example, if we were requiring masks or something like that, we could tell them, you have to do this too. and they wouldn't have the option of saying, well, we don't have to because we're not, whatever. They would have to do that. But in terms of, and they have to work with us on their hours and things like that, because that has to work for us. They can't just set some kind of random hours and then we're just helpless to do anything. And so on those things, we do, we work with them and negotiate those things. And if there were ever any problems with their service or anything like that, again, we sit down at the table with them and figure out what we can do.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? If not, we'll move on to let's see, approval of consent agenda. Approval of the regular meeting minutes from August 24th. Any comments, questions on that, on those minutes?
Move approval.
Okay, do I have a second? Second, Zuby. And all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay, and it's approved. Thank you very much. And any matters related to policy? I think not. Laura, is that true? Nothing there?
Nothing on policy this time. Thank you, Chair Gamble.
Okay, very good. Okay, some action items. Oh, good. Now we get Mr. Tellis to give us all those numbers and tell us what great shape we're in. Nick Tellis, please. We will approve all kinds of reports if they're good reports. Nick.
Hello, Mr. Chair and board members and President Rowley. I'm trying to bring up my shared screen, but it's kind of responding really slowly, so bear with me. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Let's see here.
Yeah, your image is a little cloudy. I hope your reports are not cloudy.
Me too. Let me see here. All right, just 1 second. I think I figured it out. Can you see my screen?
We can see your screen, and they're not cloudy either.
And I
They're
am
clear.
I am going to be as brief as I possibly can because I've known you. I know you all have studied these reports, over the past few days in depth, and use them for light reading before bed. But
Yes.
but financials look good, and again, like these are the report for the end of August for this fiscal year FY23, and it's way early in the fiscal year to really opine on any kind of trending. So with that said, our revenues look a little bit low, but I believe it's a timing thing, and our expenses are right on track. They're a bit higher than they were last year. But I think we're about, August is about, what is that, 17% of the year complete. Let me just move down a little bit here. August is actually at 17% of the year complete, and we've spent down 12% of our expenses, budgeted expenditures. So that's tracking really well. Again, August is really early, so I think we'll have a little bit more to talk about when we present the September report, which would be the first quarter of the fiscal year completed. And so things look good. I just would like to mention some things that are at play. As we all know, There's been some changes with the Fed and the interest rates and things like that. And so what we're expecting is a recession that's on the horizon. Everything's pointed towards a recession taking place, even if we're not like in a recession as we speak. It's expected to be official in the next couple months. And so that's what we're looking at. And the only reason why I point that out is that, under normal circumstances with recessions, we see enrollment improvement, but that will remain to be seen this year and this time around because things are just so out of sorts. Up is down, down is up, that's just kind of how things are situated right now. So while that could be a good, promising thing that occurs, I think that our recession and that inverse relationship with recession and enrollment will likely not really happen, but there's a good chance that, or there is a chance that we'll see that trend kind of resurfacing again, and but who knows? So just wanted to point that out. Other than that, financials look good, and with that, I can stand for any questions you might have.
Okay, Nick, having heard you say that it's early in the year and up is down and down is up, I still look at state appropriations and I see that it's down 66% from last year, and I get a little bit nervous when I see that. So you're gonna...
Good point. I get a little nervous too, but the state appropriation is it's very reliable. So the only reason why I think we see that decrease is because of a timing issue. Maybe we didn't receive the allotment as we did last year. At the beginning of the year, a lot of those factors kind of are at play. So nothing to be worried about. I'm not worried about that at all. And yeah, so I think it'll all even out as time goes on, and we and especially as we get through September.
Right. And of course, indeed, with the issue of to the formula for state appropriations related to enrollment, when our enrollment goes down, presumably also our state appropriation goes down. So we can, I don't know when the state is on what enrollment period they look at, but obviously our enrollment's going down, or has been going down.
Yeah, and in that vein, and to that comment, we also at the same time, while you may have the base or the formula funding that we get, it doesn't usually go. It hasn't been going down. You also have to add in what the state has provided in terms of compensation, and so they did give us that compensation increase that we did put in place this fiscal year.
Right.
And so it's kind of, I mean, you have to really look closely and dissect that state appropriation to kind of look at the mechanics, how things are moving in that regard. But yeah, I mean, I think the concern for enrollment is as great as it's ever been, and
Right.
there is always that chance that the state might decrease, that area. And the
Right.
challenge is the cost of running the college in terms of inflationary costs. Just I wouldn't anticipate healthcare costs ever decreasing. I hope that they can level off, because if they continuously increase, then there's a huge problem there. Utility costs are really, really high now with inflation at 9%. And so those things are, there's inflationary costs that occur that kind of keep everything increasing while we see the revenues. And, you know, the legislature does like to talk about decreasing appropriation. So you may see, you know, stagnant revenue and even declining revenues with increasing inflationary costs. And that's kind of the challenge. That's kind of the thing that we have to wrestle with the college's finances, because we don't want to be raising tuition like other schools do all the time. You know, I think we are all very proud of the fact that we do everything we can to not raise tuition, and we've left it pretty low for, you know, the amount of time that I've been with the college. So,
Right.
Thank you.
Although
Okay.
on that point, I mean,
Please.
I mean, now with the Opportunity Scholarship and the Lottery Scholarship, it would be interesting to see how many of our students are actually on scholarships, because they're not paying the tuition. And of course, that's one of the complaints that the legislature always has of the schools when they create scholarships, is that the schools raise their tuition because now the students aren't paying for it.
Right.
Yeah. I'm very interested in finding out some of those, the results from at least fall semester and in this entire year, because that's going to be very important information for everyone to really learn.
Now, is that a click of some button, or how do we select that?
Yeah, I clicked the button making the request to Josh's group. So maybe Opie can help us out with that. I know that Tomasina, and I do have to commend Tomasina and her group on enrollment. I mean, to have us 2% up, and to see here, you know, even our tuition and fees are up 1%, although a lot of that is as a result of Chris Swedeen's group and contract training. They're doing a lot of work and exceptional work there. But I think, you know, we have to always remember all of the work, that the phone calls and the real personal connection that we try to put in place with our students. I think it's paid off. That's why we're seeing us be up about 2%. While it's not pre-pandemic numbers, it's definitely showing the positive results. So that, with the opportunity, you know, maybe things will get better. We'll have to see again on a recession what that does.
Right. It certainly will be interesting to see begin to see the impact of the Opportunity Scholarship. And I suppose as a part of that, maybe we would also see what the funding situation is for all students. So like what percentage of students are getting Opportunity Scholarship, what percentage are getting other kinds of aid. That would be obviously only one piece of the factors that impact whether or not students are attending, but it'd be an interesting piece. And I'm sure in the spring we can maybe get a little bit of information about that.
You know, and on that point, I think that maybe a year from now is going to be the more interesting information, because a lot of students are going to go to the 4 years and they're not going to do so well. But we need to be, as a community college, ready to capture and catch those students and help them along the way, because there is an opportunity for us to provide that support.
Okay, any other comments or questions for Nick on the financial report for August?
So just a clarification, when would we get that data on how many people are going, how many students are actually on scholarship?
We could probably provide that at the next board meeting, if that's appropriate.
Great. Okay, thanks.
I'm sorry, Yash, I didn't hear that.
We could probably get something together to provide a report for the next board meeting.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, that'd be great. Would that possibly include the broader sort of view of how students are paying for their, how all students are paying for their education?
No, that would just be amount of financial aid dollars that students are receiving. So it might still be some additional costs, right? For example, cost of attendance is more than just tuition and fees and books.
Right.
Cost of living, et cetera. So we won't have that information necessarily.
Right.
I mean, we may in some cases, we could estimate in some cases, but given that our FAFSA completion rate has some still room to improve there, I think the best we could do is we tell you like a list of number of students and who's receiving what kind of aid in a very aggregated format.
Okay. Okay, that'd be great. Good, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I
Okay.
think we need an approval on this one.
Okay. Could I get a motion to approve the August 22 budget?
Financial report.
Financial
So
report?
moved. So moved.
So moved. Second, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And it's approved. Okay.
Thank you.
Now the HED financial report, fourth quarter.
Yes, this is the Mr. Chair, board members, President Rowley, this one's the straightforward one. This one's just required from HED, and we're not indicating any kind of financial trouble that we would have to report to HED. So.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the HED financial report, fourth quarter?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Second.
All in favor
Aye.
indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, approved unanimously. And now approval of consideration of resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of taxable education technology notes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, board members, President Rowley, this is the resolution I mentioned last board meeting, and we're asking the board to approve up to $4 million of bonds to be sold to the state treasurer for educational technology notes. These are incredibly important right now as we are doing all of the work with chess and also hybrid learning environments in the classroom. And these dollars will go a long way to help us on a number of different levels. Definitely students, and with the transformation and technology that we've experienced, but also it really does help us to be able to manage our mill levy rate that's associated with this type of financing. And so I've worked with our bond advisors, and they should be on the call. I believe Eric Harrigan is on the call, as well as our bond attorneys with Sutton Thayer Brown, and they've worked together to be able to help us manage and stabilize that mill levy rate that has to do with debt service on our bonds. So with that, that is essentially it. I know that the resolution is quite lengthy, and that's all I have. Eric, do you have anything?
Nick, this is Regina with RBC. I don't think we have anything to add, but would be happy to stand for any questions.
Well, one of the simple questions is, why is it called notes rather than simply a bond issue?
I'll try a first stab at this, Regina. A note is a more short-term instrument, financial instrument. So a note's going to be 2 years or so. Bonds tend to be a little bit, I don't remember the exact duration, but maybe longer than 2 years, something like that.
Up to 20 in New Mexico for geo bonds.
But it's also because the legislature passed this legislation to allow specifically for these tech notes.
Yes, the public schools have had these for a while, but recently, CNM, I believe, pushed a bill to allow the same kind of financial capability for community colleges. And this is one area that's super important because it's hard to get bond money. And every time in the past, before we had this legislation, it's hard to get technology projects and technology financing approved for our local bond elections, because in reality, the thinking is that we take out a bond, maybe a local bond, for 20 years, and we're still paying on those assets that we sourced from the proceeds of the bond. We're paying on them over 20 years, but technology goes out of date in 5 years. So
Right.
something that's gone out of date in 5 years, you're still paying on over 20, and it doesn't make any sense. And the bond powers that be don't like to do that ever. But when we got this was a way to be able to reasonably issue some debt and be able to pay it back very quickly. And that's the plan would be to pay back the $4 million over I believe 2 years. Regina, is it 2 or 3?
It's 2 years. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So with the revenues that we generate through local mill, we'd be able to pay these off in 2 years.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this, these technology notes, education technology notes?
Mr. Chair, I just remembered one thing in reviewing this resolution recently. If I could request the resolution to be amended and take me off as Vice President of Finance as the paying agent, and substitute it with the current paying agent that we have, which is the Bank of Albuquerque or Bank of Oklahoma. It's the same thing. That little revision would be very helpful. Otherwise, I have to bring back an additional document to the board.
Okay, could we approve it today, or could we vote on it today, and you could just send us then a new document for us to sign?
Is that right? Do we have the attorney from Sunther?
Yes, this is Robert Johnston at Sutton & Brown. Yes, the board could approve this as amended, as Nick stated, with BOKF as the paying agent and not Nick. And then we will update the documents for closing for everyone's execution.
Okay, great.
Unfortunately, I don't have $4 million to be the paying agent, so.
Not this week anyway, huh?
Yeah.
Zuby?
I'm curious. So normally when we go to bond, we get a commitment from our community to pay those bonds back. And I'm wondering, what is the funds? So we're not increasing our local taxation. I'm just wondering, what is the source of money? Where does it fit into our budget to pay these back?
Robert, you want to give a stab at that? I tried to kind of state earlier how we would do that, but.
Sure. So a typical GO bond, you're correct, goes to the community for a vote, authorizing the issuance of the bonds. Education technology notes are different in that there's no vote required, and they are still payable from ad valorem property taxes. So that is the source of funding pursuant to the education technology statutes.
But we're not increasing taxation, so we have no additional revenue coming in to pay these back. So it has to come out of our budget, correct?
Correct. The levy is not increased by of this issue. That's
I guess my concern is that a couple months ago when we decided to give 8% raises, it was presented to the board that we were putting ourselves in a deficit spending mode 3 years from now. by passing those, that we did, that if everything remained flat, that we would be in deficit, and then we gave the president an additional increase after that. And I'm just wondering, do we have such a surplus in our, in that we can afford to pay this back without having to do any further cuts? Or are we setting ourselves up for a challenge in a couple of years?
No, Mr. Chairman and Board Member Wilson, the funding source and the cash that's generated to do this financing is completely separate and apart from anything that has to do with pay increases or compensation for employees. These are for, this is for capital type equipment and assets that we can utilize that can be paid from our debt service. We cannot use debt service revenue to pay for employee compensation. That would be really, really a bad thing to do anything like that. So the compensation and the budget and the pay increases came out of unrestricted dollars. This is entirely restricted. And so it's completely different. And we really do want to do this bond issuance to make sure that we don't generate so much cash in our bank account from local mills that the state would come back and say, hey, you're generating too much cash in your account. We need to lower your mill rate. That's also what we want to avoid, and this helps us to avoid that. Because otherwise, once your mill rate goes down to pay your debt, you have to ask the taxpayers for a tax increase to get it back to where it was. And we don't, this provides stability to the, to the county, to the taxpayers, and to the college. Anything else, Regina? I mean, that I didn't point out?
That's correct, Nick, Mr. Chairman. The dollars that you collect from your taxpayers in the debt service are restricted dollars and can only be used to pay debt service. They cannot be used to pay salaries. That's why they're basically repurposing the same taxes that you would be collecting on GO bonds to generate additional source of funding in the form of educational technology notes while maintaining your overall tax rate stable as the college considers election next year to make sure that there are no fluctuation in overall tax.
Mr. Chair, if I might, so I think, that Member Wilson, to your question, the basically the pool of non-restricted funds is essentially the same, and what we're able to do is use this for a different purpose. So the technology projects anymore are generally not capitalized equipment like they used to be. And so we weren't able to spend bond money on those things unless it's specifically designated this way through educational tech notes. So a lot of like what we do are subscription services and things like that, which are super expensive, ridiculously expensive, and they're really hard to pay for out of your operating budget. And so this is like a change that reflects the way technology projects have changed.
Right. Is there any other questions?
I guess I'm just want to be clear. We're borrowing money and we're not projecting any. So as Nick said, we're anticipating that our capital funds will be building over the next couple of years. So we'll have a surplus that we can spend on repaying these notes. Is that what we're saying?
To some degree, yes. It's hard to predict exactly how much cash we're going to build up, but yes.
But we're not going to be deciding we can't do a roof repair because we don't have enough capital money available because we are using that money on debt service for these tech notes.
Absolutely correct. We'll even be able to, in this financing, issue this $4 million, and that will happen in $2 million increments in the first year, and then the second year we'll do the remaining 2 million, and then in FY or in calendar year 23, we'll be ramping up a ask for the voters to approve. I think what we can afford is about $17 million in a local GO bond, which will have to go to the voters and be on the November 2023 ballot. By approving this today, it still allows us to do that right around $17 million in local GO bonds next year. And so we're going to be in a really good shape. Those local GO bonds can be used, and they are specifically and ideal for roofing projects and parking lots and sidewalks, ADA things, and other items in our master plan.
Okay, Zuby, anything else?
I guess I'm still concerned. I mean, it seems as though we are borrowing money without a clear revenue source to repay those. And so unless we really have incredible amount of surplus in our capital side, or it sounds as though we may be counting a little bit on the GO bond this fall passing as a part of the plan for repayment. So I guess I do have concerns, and I'd like us to spend a little more time looking at this and considering it if we could. So if it's appropriate, I'd like to motion that we table it and have some more investigation into this process.
Okay, you are proposing a motion. I have a motion on the floor to approve it. So let me ask for a vote on the current motion, and then
I think a motion to table takes precedence over the motion on the floor.
okay.
It does.
Okay, let me do that then. Motion to table. Do I have votes on that? Do I have
It requires a second. So
okay.
if there's no second, there's no motion.
Is there a second? There is no motion. No second, no motion. Okay, thank you, Zuby. Nick, sort of following up some of Zuby's comments, does that mean that we have, based on our mill levy and our income, that we have a certain capacity to cover bond issues? So for example, I don't know how many bond issues we're currently paying for, but presumably there are limits. There's a finite amount that we could approve and pay for. Is that correct?
Yes, we calculate that every time we, put a plan together for issuing local general obligation bonds, and this fits into that plan.
Right. So what you're saying is that given our capacity to pay for bonds from our revenues, this bond would fit into that. This bond would fit into that plan.
It does, and it also importantly, it helps us to not allow our debt service mill levy rate decrease. We can keep it stabilized, which is really key.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so let's get now could I have a motion to approve this taxable technology notes?
I motion to approve it.
Second?
Second.
Second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, approval of life safety system design agreement. Okay, what is that?
Okay, let me bring that one up. John, are you on the call? Or Chris Getler? How about you
I am here.
kick
I am
it
here,
off?
yes.
You guys kick it off. I think everyone's tired of hearing me talk. So,
That's right, we're tired of seeing your face.
thanks.
Members of the board, Chair Gamble, President Rowley, thank you guys for listening to us today on this proposal to bring in an outside source. The idea here, and I know Andrea Mueller is on the line that has more information on this as well, but the idea here is we want to bring in some experts to guide us in eventually bringing our emergency life safety system up to par, so our alarm systems, our access control, to integrate with our camera systems. And this first portion that we're going over today is really just to bring in someone to guide us the best way they can to make sure that we're meeting industry standards. And that is really what we're trying to do with this. I don't know if Andrea has more to tap onto that.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chair Gamble, members of the board, President Rowley. Yes, this contract is for hiring Kaufman Engineers. They're an industry expert in life safety design and emergency management. And they responded to an RFP and were selected to move forward with this group. They are actually out of California. We did not have any responses from any local engineering firms who specialize in this type of work. But they have just an amazing portfolio. They work for a lot of schools in California, and they just are highly qualified. So they'll, yeah, like Chris was saying, they'll be looking at all of our legacy systems, our fire panels, our devices, our fire suppression, door access, emergency communication systems. It will be a full-blown, really intensive and comprehensive project. So we're asking that this be approved so that we can move forward. We have received bond funding from the state. Actually, I have several bonds that have been approved for emergency management, right around $2.3 million for the actual construction component of it, the implementation. So this is just for design. So I don't know if John has anything more to add to that.
I do not. I just want to give, well, I do have a little bit. So members of the board, Chairman, I just want to give this team a great deal of kudos for the amount of work that was put into this RFP. Was a very large amount, lots of visits. So it was very thorough, and I just wanted to recognize them for all the work they did. Thank you.
And John, didn't we try an RFP but didn't get any responses? This was the kind of second go?
Yes, this was the second posting. We did end up changing our scope of work a fair amount, and equally we did reach out to some vendors that would know other vendors that would work on this kind of project. So it was difficult finding vendors to respond to this scope of work.
Okay, comments, questions?
Chair Gamble, this is Jody.
Please.
Yeah, I have a question. So, in your first paragraph, you talk about, let's see, designed to come into an efficient, centralized command and control for monitoring of apps and stuff. I'm sorry, did they just move the screen? So I lost what I was looking at.
Oh, sorry. Where
That's
do you
okay. No worries. But so I was wondering, where is that centralized location? And is that essentially an EOC, or will it be one specific person? This is more for the college folks.
Chris, you.
I'm just trying to read along with her. So that the centralized system we're trying to get to will be in the Safety and Security Office, which will be monitored and controlled by the Safety and Security Department. Facilities and operations will have some say, if you will, when it comes to like when we do our inspections and larger exhaust cleanings and things that we just need to be up to par with when it comes to code and our inspections. So centrally, it'll be all in the Safety and Security Office.
All right. And so will that kind of function as an EOC if there were an emergency? Is that what we're thinking?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other comments or questions? I read, Chris, when I read this recommendation, on one paragraph I read it's a design. On another paragraph I read about construction. Is this going to be an assessment design of our needs, or is this going to, or is it something more than that?
This initial, what we're here for today, is going to be, yes, an initial assessment to bring us up to par with what the industry standard is. So for now, it will just be an assessment to not only look at the physical parts of our campus that we need improvements on, but also to look at our emergency response plans and really get us on the same page of where we need to be here in 2022 by industry standard. But eventually, yes, this will lead to getting to the construction part of things. This is only the assessment part.
Okay, and this part is $197,000. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I presume that all of this is going to tie into our solar system and our satellites and everything else that we have up there, our balloons. Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve?
A motion to approve.
Do I hear a second? I'll second it. Okay, you second it. Do I hear a vote? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. So we have 4 votes for. And Zuby, I didn't hear anything from you.
I'll abstain on this.
Okay. All right, it's approved. Now we move to a general construction building automatic systems, building automation system training lab. Okay. Who's going to tell us about that?
Why don't you start out, John?
Very good. Yes. Chairman Gamble, members of the board, President Rowley. We did run an RFP for this. This is building automation system. We had, a fair amount of response to this one, as well as some local vendors. With the scope of work, I'm going to pass it on to Andrea to give you a summary.
Thank you, John. Yes, so this project is for our building automation training lab. This has been a project on the board for, I want to say, since the inception of the EDA grant. A portion of this project will be paid for by the EDA grant. And it basically will be a kind of mini building system where you'll have HVAC components in one area built in with a Siemens building automation controller. And then they have built curriculum around this system so that they can train technicians to go into the field of building automation systems. As I understand it, there is a huge need out there for building automation technicians. And so Siemens has partnered with SFCC with the EDA grant to move this project forward, because even in their own companies, they're looking for technicians. So this will be built inside the plumbing lab that's over at the Trades and Technologies building. It'll be kind of a little mini system, building system. And should be very interesting to see it built. It'll be built on a unistrut system. It'll have, air handling units, VAVs, different components that students can be trained on. So that's kind of the general scope. And I will stand for questions on that.
Questions, comments?
So this will be controlling functioning parts of the campus, or this will be just something where there will be automation of some equipment, but not essential equipment to the functioning of the buildings?
That's right, Member Wilson. It'll be a standalone system, separated from the college entirely. The only portion that will be shared will be the hot and cold water loops that will be coming into the air handling unit for it. But otherwise, it's completely separate from the building. And so, again, it will kind of function as its own little miniature building. The other piece of this is, down the road when there is an actual class taking place for this, the college is a great example as well of building automation systems. Our Medisys system is really an excellent, system that can be shown to students as well on a large scale. But this will be kind of a small scale that they'll be able to see other types of control systems.
So it doesn't need to be able to integrate at all with Johnson Controls. It's just completely.
That's right. Correct. Mm-hmm.
And would be used primarily solely as a training facility for students.
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
What are students now training on?
They're not.
I don't believe there is a class currently for building automation. This was really developed kind of parallel. And so as I understand it, the curriculum has been built out between SFCC and Siemens. And so I think there's still some work to be done on the curriculum side. I'm not a part of that, so I'll kind of abstain from more comments.
Okay. So can I get a motion to approve the General Construction Building Automation System Training Lab?
Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay, it was unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay. Approval of the Firstborn Model Research Project contract.
Yes. Do we have Tekla on the phone or Katrin?
Yes, I'll introduce it, Dick.
Yeah, if you can.
Okay. Chairman Gamble, members of the board, President Rowley. Again, this was an RFP that we ran. And again, this one is the second time we've gone out. We had to edit some of the scope from the first time because we did not have any responses. Equally, we did not have a lot of qualified vendors that were able to respond, but we did get some from across the nation, and we did end up going with a local vendor. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Tekla to give you a summary of the scope of work.
Great, thank you. So, Chairman Gamble, members of the board, and President Rowley, just wanted to share with you what we have here from UNM. Cradle to Career Policy Institute is our response to that RFP, proposing a extensive research project to look at the effectiveness of the home visiting model that we have Firstborn through a multi-year study using a non-experimental comparison group method, and proposing to look at different measures with parents reporting out on those, and really testing those measures and methods first, making sure that that all works, and then actually running the research from there to give us more feedback and information about the efficacy of the home visiting model. I don't know, Katrin or John, if there's anything you either want to add.
No, I think that the only thing that I would add is that, Tekla, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we had an RPSP appropriation from the legislature that will help to fund this. So there's a lot of legislative interest in what's going on here in terms of home visiting and the firstborn program.
Right.
Yeah.
Nick, just to clarify, this was actually part of the junior bill, not our PSP funding.
Oh, okay. This was the junior bill, and that was 455,000 or so.
Correct. And so multiple representatives contributed to that funding to support the research of firstborn.
Comments or questions?
Chair Campbell, this is Jody. I have a question.
Please.
Yeah, so when I was reading through this, it looked like this is from fiscal year 22 to 24 for a total price of $385. But then I read where they mentioned an optional year added to the contract, and I didn't see that mentioned anywhere in what I read, so maybe I missed it. But how much would that extra year be, and is that part of the total funding that was given to the college?
My understanding was that that was part of the total, and it's just a matter of how quickly everything rolls out. There were kind of two different ways that it could be run, within 2 years or within 3 years, but there wasn't a change in price.
Well, so that's what kind of concerned me, was because I didn't really see a change in price reflected, but in the verbiage of what the respondent said, they talked about the 2-year model and then an additional 3-year model, which they put in their proposal, but it had a caveat with additional funding.
I'll take a shot at this one. So Chair Gamble, members of the board, President Rowley, we did contract initially for the first 2 years, and with the option to renew and to move on for the next phases. So we did go with the 2-year model, and that's what was reflected in this. They did respond with the multiple options, but in going back and forth, we did decide on that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it was kind of confusing, and the way the language is, it almost seems like they could say if they do a 3rd year, there would be additional funding. So you could just look at that and make sure
Yes.
Either we all understand it. That would be great.
Very good.
I guess I have, well, big question is, how is anyone from the kids campus involved in this project, in this research project?
Chair Gamble, members of the board, the kids campus is not involved in this project. This is specifically for the firstborn home visiting model. That is actually a statewide program that we hold the model office here within the umbrella of the Early Childhood Center of Excellence.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I don't quite follow that. In other words, I guess here's what I'm wondering. We have on our campus people and facilities, people in particular concerned with infant and child well-being. And here we're approving a research study along those lines, happens to be called Firstborn. So why aren't some people from our institution involved at some level in this project? Yeah, it just seems like, who wrote the proposal for this? Was it people from the kids campus?
So, Chair Gamble, members of the board, President Rowley, the Early Childhood Center of Excellence is an umbrella for
Right.
multiple early childhood programs.
Right.
One of which is the Kids Campus, which is our early learning center. Another program is the Firstborn Home Visiting Model.
Right.
Home visiting, and we run the model office in support of programs all over the state. And those are for families who have home visitors come to their home or, virtually, to support them in prenatal through age 5. So it's a different part of the early childhood ecosystem that is a preventative for many of the factors that Tekla was talking about.
Right.
And so it could be that some of the families at Kids Campus are participating in home visiting, but it's a different program within early childhood that we run. Did
Right.
that answer your question?
No.
Oh.
Sorry about that. What I'm concerned about is not the children. I'm concerned about the professional staff in the Firstborn program at SFCC. I'm concerned that they should be a part of this research project.
And they are.
They
Tekla
are.
is actually the director of that program. So she will be directing this research, but in order to have an evaluation model, we have to contract with an outside evaluator to look at our program to give us feedback.
Right.
So we will be working closely with the researchers on this project.
Okay, I guess I just missed the tech. So Tekla, I'm sorry that I missed that part. I actually did look through the entire proposal, but I missed it. So you are working at the Firstborn program at SFCC. You are
Correct.
heading that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted, I read all the stuff about UNM and I just couldn't see how we were a part of that because, yeah. Okay. The other two minor questions, Tekla, that I'll raise. One is, for a while, when I was reading through the proposal, I didn't see anything about language comprehension for the families. If families are going to be surveyed, obviously that takes certain levels of language comprehension. And I didn't see anything in here. Initially, I didn't see anything that they were going to be in English and Spanish. But secondly, even if they're in Spanish, of course, there are people who do fine speaking Spanish, but who don't read Spanish very well. And I didn't see anything in here to kind of attempt to deal with that issue, either in the experimental group or the control group. Yeah, go ahead. Your comment on that?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Gamble and members of the board, President Rowley. That was an explicit aspect of the RFP as we sent it out, was to state that we were looking for a response from an organization that could do the research in English and in Spanish and verbally for families who couldn't access that material in a written format. And so there's a lot of aspects to this. And so this contract, as it was put here, is their response without everything there. It's the contract. So it doesn't have like every line of, we had interview process with them and a written process. And it was Katrin, myself, Yash, our new hire, Topica Moro Vega. So a bunch of us from the community college have been in sort of back and forth communication with each applicant here. And I'll just say that the folks that are going to be doing this have a track record of doing work across New Mexico in the languages and in the ways that reach families best. So I feel confident that that will happen with this research project also.
Right. Okay. Finally, the final point is this is a very, it's kind of a sophisticated quantitative model. And I did see in one or two places that there was possibly some qualitative work going on. I would encourage them to definitely have some focus groups and or qualitative interviews to get some details that all their survey work and all their quantitative work doesn't touch. And especially in a very short-term project of this sort, I would certainly encourage that. I mean, yeah, know it comes from somebody who happens to be an anthropologist and happens to have worked, done dozens of these kind of studies over the last 30 years. So it's a very biased view. Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Chair Gamble, this is
Please.
Judy again. If I could elaborate, I don't know who's controlling the slide, but if they'll go to slide 2 of the PDF, I'll show you what I'm talking about. There, so yeah, go down right there at the bottom. Whoop, nope, in the chart. Yeah, go up into the chart. So just one more down, there you go. So you can see it says price $385, project start date on the 2022, project end date 2024. And now if you'll go to page 30 in the PDF. Under timelines, the first sentence under timelines. Yeah, that's measures. So it's in the PDF, it is page 30. I'm not sure what it is in the proposal, but go ahead and scroll. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not finding it. It's Nick. I'm controlling it here. John, do you have any idea of?
Yeah, I can share my screen then.
Okay, I'll have to relinquish.
Yeah, let me, I'm sorry. It looks like it's page 6, but I'm not sure of what part. Yeah, so go up one more page from there. And then timelines right there. So I can't read that because it's too small, but when I look at it on oh, there you go. So it says, this study will be most successful if the grant is extended for a 3rd year with additional funds, as described in the RFP. So it says this proposal is a 24-month grant period, right? So that's what I'm just suggesting that we make sure we're clear on. If we think we're getting 3 years for $385, And they've clearly said we get 2 years, and if we want that 3rd year, we have to pay more. We just all need to be on the same page with that, especially contractually. So that was my feedback.
And John, is there a way to kind of clarify that?
Yeah, I'm gonna review the language and make sure that, it is very clear that it is 2 years and not 3. And I do see your point, Jody, so I will work on that. with our
Okay,
legal
thank you.
To get the legal language correct.
Good catch. Good catch.
Okay, any other comments, questions? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
Yeah.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. I heard one from Jody.
Aye.
Nick, I'm sorry,
Pierre, yeah,
Pierre, okay.
I'm good.
And Ruby, did I hear?
Yes, I said aye.
Okay, approved unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Approval of reaffirmation of the 2020-2025 strategic plan. Dr. Morimoto and Ms. Gallegos.
Unfortunately, Julie was not able to come today as she is feeling ill. So I'll try to do my best to step in for Julie. I'm not sure if I could do it, but I'll do my best.
You said Julie is where?
Ill. She is ill.
Oh, I thought you said she was in jail.
No. She is
Sorry.
ill.
Sorry.
I'm glad you clarified that question. So, for her honor.
Well, I heard that too, and I thought, I can't believe you're saying that, even if it's true, Yash.
No, I'm glad. There must be the connection on my end, so I apologize, and please make sure the minutes reflect as such that I'm not saying so. I'm not saying that somebody's in jail.
The illness is only a cover story, probably.
So what I have in front of you is our 2020-25 strategic plan. I'm asking the board members' consideration to reaffirm the strategic plan. Should you reaffirm it, then I could put it in our accreditation document that the board members did reaffirm it. Right now, as we speak, well, not as we speak, but this week I started writing our assurance argument, which will be due next year. And so this is just for the board's consideration. Thank you very much.
Okay. Questions, comments?
I'm just curious, what we're reaffirming is the one-page document that we're looking at?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Chair, this is Jody.
Please.
I would just say, we've had a little bit of discussion about this, definitely at last meeting. And, some of us have been involved in some of the iterations that have gone on. I actually like that we have trimmed it down because I think, especially at an institution like the community college, there's a lot of different directions we could go. And unless we have a high-level document that keeps us focused on the things that are our core values and our core mission, that it's very easy to go off down these other tangents and get distracted or not fully fulfill our mission. So I actually like the 3 with, I believe, was it 20 initiatives or something like that? Anyways, which was much slimmed down. When I first got here and we had 100-some initiatives, I was like, holy mackerel, how can we ever even focus on what's really important to us? And certainly people were focusing on a lot of those initiatives, but were we moving forward as an organization and an institution? That's questionable. So anyways, I if this is a reaffirming, I would just like to state that I actually like this version. I like having only 3 core priorities and 20 initiatives. So thank you, Yash.
Thank you. The credit goes to Dr. Winograd, the faculty and staff members, and of course, Julie Gallegos, who couldn't be here today.
Okay, any other comments, questions? We can also thank the sort of the KISS initiative, Keep Things Simple, which is a very valuable principle in all kinds of management and planning efforts. And I also applaud those efforts here, and being able to look at a single page and 3 major areas and say, these are areas we are supporting, I think is very, very helpful.
Thank you, Chair Gamble.
Any other comments, questions? If not, do I hear a motion to reaffirm?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, unanimously approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Okay, now we move on to item 11, grant updates. And we will get that from Ms. White.
Unfortunately, Ms. White is also having illness, not jail, so that I'll be presenting this information. She sends her regrets, but there's 3 grants that the SFCC is currently considering applying, and we just want to let the board member know as an information item. The 3 grants are the Early Childhood Center of Excellence from a Thornburg Foundation for $75,000. The Firstborn Model Office has a baby fund grant for $10,000. And then there's an NSF grant that we're applying for $400,000. So with that, I stand for any questions.
Okay, any questions or comments on grants? It seems like we've been getting an awful lot of grants, and a number of people are doing their jobs very, very well. Okay, no comments, questions?
I'm curious, I've heard rumors that we are working on another NSF grant as well. Is that the case?
I think that's the $400,000 one, but yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, a SFCC policy, and I think there's no first reading. Laura, is that correct?
Yes, Chair Gamble, that is correct.
Okay. Boy, we've got all our policy people got it easy this month. Okay, board reports, discussion, other business. I guess I would, for discussion or other business, I would simply raise a question about meeting, going back to in-person meetings. I know the college is gradually opening up, and I know I am finally seeing people in person and have to reintroduce myself to them because I don't recognize them, they don't recognize me. And I'm wondering, interest, concerns about opening up in sometime this year in one of our next probably 2 board meetings, October, and I don't know, November we often skip, and December. Any thoughts about that?
I'm on campus anyway, but
You're what?
I'm on campus anyway. So I'd be happy to have in-person meetings. I guess one question I have is, as you commented earlier, we don't seem to be getting a lot of public comment. And I think one thing, if we're going to have our public meetings, we used to do them in the evening when it was more accessible for people with jobs to be able to come in and do comments. And so I'd like to look at some way, if we're going to be doing that, if we're going to be still having afternoon meetings, that we create some mechanism by which people can make public comments without having to miss work during the day. That doesn't mean we have to. I mean, if we move the meetings to 5 o'clock, it'll conflict with one of my classes. But I'm just thinking it would be some way that we can permit more public input.
Mr.
So
Chair, we could still, you know, whatever time, whatever method, we could still solicit public comments the way that we do right now. Anyway, they submit them, you know, and Audrey reads them, and depending upon the issue, I mean, we've gotten a fair amount, you know, when we wanted to do things that would impact a neighborhood or something like that. So I think that does seem to engage at least a certain group of our stakeholders.
Right, yeah. So any other comments on face-to-face meetings? Obviously, we could still, they could still be taped or broadcast. Now, I don't know if we could have simulcast. I don't know if people could call in. That would depend on, I don't know where we are with that technology. Is Mason on? Okay. Okay. All right. So it looks like it's not in our immediate future, but sort of within a couple of months, maybe. Any other comment about that?
Yeah, Chair Gamble,
Please.
this is Jody. I agree. I mean, things are opening back up. Definitely I'm up at work more, which is why I was late to the meeting today, getting down the hill. But I guess I support having more meetings in person, but I would like to maintain the flexibility of or hybrid meetings where people can call in, or so we don't have to necessarily drive, right, to get out to the college if you are like an hour and a half away. So so that it would be nice to maintain that flexibility and have in-person meetings.
Right. Yeah, and that of course was what Mason was talking about, having that equipment in the boardroom so we could have that possibility.
Right.
Okay. To be continued on that. Any other issues or business? Zuby.
I'm curious, it's not, do we have a student government? We haven't been getting reports from student government, and I talked to a number of students who are not hearing anything, or there were 2 weeks ago we got a thing sent out to all the students saying that you had until sometime in August to submit applications to run for student government, but that I haven't seen anything indicating we're having an election. Are we just not getting any interest, or where is our student government at?
Member Wilson, Mr. Chair, I think we have had less interest, but I do know that we do have somebody, because I know this because there's a pan in my email that I need to sign for the student government person today. So we should have somebody, I would assume, probably making some kind of a report next board meeting. But I do think that it's been difficult getting students on campus to, to want to do this, but we did have an election. We got somebody that, to run and to do that. So hopefully we can get more interest and once somebody's in the office, they can generate a little bit more publicity too.
Okay. Any other issues that board members wish to raise or anyone wishes to raise that are not on the agenda?
Chair, this is Jody again. Just
Yes,
one last
Jody.
thing, I promise, and then maybe my connection will go again. You won't have to. Yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone for participating in the offsite retreat we did. I thought that was really valuable, and for me, it helped me kind of sync or gel with some of the issues that people are experiencing at the college. And I just encourage the people that were invited but couldn't make it, show up next time we do it, because I think their input would have been valuable as well. And so I just wanted to thank everyone. It was great to see people in person. It was great to hear their concerns, their challenges, their creativeness and overcoming those. And I hope we do it again. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Yeah. Any other comments? If not, I will entertain motion to adjourn. I know it's early. Zuby,
Second.
is it too early to do that?
You're
Right
welcome
on
to
time.
stay.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor, indicate in some fashion. Aye.
Bye.
Okay. Thank you all very much. Have a good,
Thank you.
have a good rest of the month, and I'll see
Thank
you in
you.
October.